Welcome to Behind the Sale, real talk on real estate, your go-to podcast for buying and selling homes right here in Michigan City and Northwest Indiana. I'm Eric Tornes, and in each episode, we'll break down the local market, share expert insights, and give you the real story behind every sale. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in this fast-growing region, we've got the tips, trends, and insider knowledge to help you make the best moves. So hit subscribe and let's get started. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Eric Tornes. For you guys that know me, I am an agent with At Properties, Christie International Real Estate, and I'm joined by Chris Covalle from Proper Rate Mortgage. Welcome. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Eric.
Taking
Thanks
the
for having
time
me.
out of your day. Yeah, for sure. So I guess, we'll get, started. If you just want to, kind of tell the people, what you do and who you work for and yeah, just simple things like that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And as you mentioned, I kind of work for Proper Rate. So we're a little boutique lending company that's under the Guarantee Rate family of companies. And, kind of our core service is to provide real white glove service to the ad agents and their clients. And you have people in the office, they're here, we're visible, we're not like, a million miles away. But besides that, we're working to provide them guidance, right? Do they want to buy a house? That's why they're talking to us.
Right.
What are the steps to get there? What are the goals and objectives? How do we work to make sure we can get them on a roadmap to have a successful purchase, and then make sure that, you as the agent are out there knowing that you've got confidence that the people you're working with can get to the finish line if they find a home.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you guys. So I guess what inspired you to get in this industry? I mean, what was the path for Chris, and how did you land here?
Yeah, that's a strange one. It goes back a long way. So I've been doing this since 2005.
Okay.
Prior to getting into lending, I was in the beer, wine, and spirits business for 11 years, kind of working different sales roles, and finance roles, et cetera, and went to grad school, finished that in 2002.
Okay.
And at some point, I just got a little antsy. I kind of wanted something a little more entrepreneurial than just kind of working in the corporate environment. And
right.
I don't know why I chose this route. It's just the people I was talking with at the time, it just kind of sounded interesting. So I made the leap in 2005. And, back then, it was a little different lending environment than right now. It's kind of Wild West where anyone could do anything. Like any agent or client could have 100 people that could go do a loan for them.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of chose to build a business, ideally, all based on referral from the start. So it was a pretty slow ramp up for me, just because I walked this environment where, everyone around the corner could do any type of loan possible. And there were a jillion loan officers in the business. So that all changed over time, of course, with the crisis in 2008 and, different little cycles that have happened since then. But I love everything about it. It's just really fun to help people. It's fun to kind of run your business the way you want to, as far as deciding where you want to choose to have your referrals come from, but have a company behind you, right? To kind of provide some of that back office structure and things that you wouldn't have if you were truly, trying to build your own mortgage shop. So it's like a nice little combination for me.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. That's a cool story. What certain things do you drive you as far as values go? Like when you approach a client, because I'm sure over the years, especially, since 2005, you've probably been through quite a different, each different interaction, each home sale or buying. But what kind of drives how you operate as an individual or even as a company?
Sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we've got a lot of responsibility, right? I mean, it's very easy. I think a lot of loan officers, not to knock them, but you might call and say, hey, I'd like to get pre-approved. Great. Let's talk about your information for 5 minutes. I'm going to give you a letter that says you're pre-approved up to $400,000. And you have in your head, hey, I can go look up to $400,000.
Yeah.
But no one's really those conversations about what would you want your payment to be? Where are we trying to land from a monthly basis? Because in the day, that's what's most important to me, right? We've got to make sure that someone just doesn't get the house, but we don't want them regretting it 1 or 2 months later because they didn't realize what they're getting into and just figured, okay, it's too late. I can't back out now. My payment is what it is, even though I don't really feel comfortable about it. I've got to close on this house. So we want to get as much stress out of the equation as early as possible. so that when they find the house, we know once we've established or look at the right price points, et cetera, to kind of land where they want to be, when they find that house, they're excited. We want to have all the, planning done from the financing side, so they know exactly what things will look like once they find a house that they like, and they go through a successful closing. They're happy afterwards. They're not, regretting anything they did. I mean, so to me, that's what's always driven me, is to make sure that I understand what your specific goals are as a buyer.
Yeah.
And what's the roadmap to help you get there.
Okay. That's awesome. And it sounds like you guys really, like you said, like you really kind of curtail each transaction individually, because it is an individual. You have to take it as an individual basis. What is one interaction or transaction you've done throughout your career that just really sticks out to you? Like, is there one that you remember just like, man, that was really good or really bad?
Yeah, there's definitely some examples of both.
Yeah.
I would say some recent ones, kind of looking back at 24, there's a couple, for the most part, the market we're in now, you're really working with a first-time buyer or somebody possibly downsizing, right? Because we know the biggest problem we have right now is trapped inventory, where the majority of homeowners have an interest rate that's 4% or under, and they're just not going to move, right? They're not going to move unless they absolutely have to, because I don't want to trade in that interest rate for something that's, high sixes, low sevens, where we are today.
Right.
And so as a result, we're working with first-time buyers or people that are, selling a home, maybe looking to buy a smaller footprint just because their kids are gone or whatever the case might be. So looking back at last year, a couple, these are two different dynamics. You can be talking to first-time buyers that are in their, 20s, 30s, and then move down buyers who are in their 70s.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that's been awesome, to kind of experience that last year, where you kind of feel the gratitude from the first-time buyer who's didn't think they could buy a home, wasn't sure if they could find something. We're at the closing table. They're actually giving me a gift because they're so happy that they're able to, get this done, and just didn't know it was possible. And then you have the same type of gratitude coming from someone who, we had some clients move back from Nevada to Indiana. Same thing from Florida to Indiana, where they just weren't comfortable where they were. It was a short term. I want to be back in the Midwest. These other places aren't really what we had it built up to in our mind. And to get them back into Indiana, where they bought their home back here, again, not really knowing how, like they hadn't, they had to sell their place. They really weren't sure. Again, they're going to a different mortgage environment with these higher rates, but the gratitude they gave for just helping them move back to where they were comfortable living. I mean, that just, that means a lot, right? That's kind of why you do this, is to hopefully know that you made a little small impact on someone's life. And no matter if you're a first-time buyer or a downsized buyer, I mean, buying a house is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's a huge process for people. It's a huge investment. A lot of times it's their largest investment. And you got to take care into helping them, help them accomplish their goals and hope for the way that they want to see them done. As far as challenges, I mean, there's definitely a lot of challenges out there. You've got, the biggest mismatch we probably see now is, again, people that might want to buy, but they just don't have a realistic expectation on what their payment will be for the types of price points that they want to go look at. So again, going back to those really early conversations, it's, where do you want your payment to be?
Okay.
And how much cash are you looking to potentially put into the transaction? So that now we can look at a specific scenario, tell them what their payments should be right up front. And if we're way off, then they need to adjust their search criteria.
Okay.
So again, you don't want a surprise down the road. Just because I can pre-approve you for a higher amount doesn't mean you want that payment. So we need to get this dialed in as much as possible from day one in the early stages of the pre-approval process, so you're looking at the right types of properties.
Okay. How do you handle those tough situations? I mean, you said there's a lot of ups and downs in this industry, and I guess, how do you approach somebody that, maybe didn't have that realistic expectation, and because I'm sure you've seen it. So, So, I mean, I guess, how do you handle like tough situations like that?
I mean, you just have to walk through with them. I mean, in some cases, these clients are just going to decide to keep renting, right? Because if their rent's $1,500, $600, that's a nice place. If they go to buy a home that has a similar payment, it might not have all the bells and whistles that they have in their current rental. So sometimes that's just the choice people make, and that's okay, right? I mean, we walk through the process. We figured out what might make sense if they did want to buy, and then they made an educated decision on where to spend their next 12 months, right?
Okay.
And so that's okay.
Right.
You're helping people arrive at these decisions without rushing into automatically buying and again, having this, regret
Right.
afterwards. Or maybe someone wants to buy and they are comfortable with the payments, but maybe their credit score isn't where it needs to be. Well, what can we do between now and the next X number of months to help improve that?
Okay.
The better your credit profile gets, the better your lending scenario gets. We will partner up with a credit repair company that can oftentimes take a look at some things and provide some guidance on, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, maybe we can get rid of this or that. And, have a score boost in a certain amount of time. But it's just about putting a roadmap out for people, and
that's great.
Whether that leads to them buying now or down the road, you just have to get them in a position where they can do it if they want to.
Right. Yeah. It seems like there's a huge sense of like transparency and keeping that conversation, that dialogue open and guiding them through that. It's great. You had mentioned about first time home buyers, and a lot of them are coming out of the woodwork now and possibly looking for some homes. But I guess, what are your suggestions for somebody in this current market that is that is interested in buying a home or even selling their home? What is some advice that you could give them to either make the road just a little bit smoother?
Yeah. I would just say start early.
Okay.
If you're thinking, hey, I'm not going to buy till August, I'll start my approval process in June. That's okay if you know that everything's perfect, like you're not perfect, but your credit's good, you don't really have any potential landmines out there that you might want to investigate earlier. But even if you think things are great, you should still start early, because part of that process, we're giving you all the information. So you have a complete understanding of what your specific lending situation will look like, not just down payment, but here's estimated closing costs. Here's what your payment will look like under various assumptions. Here's your real interest rate based on our pre-approval information, which has your exact score. Are you a first-time buyer? Are you getting access to grant programs that might help you with some cash that you might not have been aware of, that could help cover closing costs? And just, again, if you don't do anything for 6 months, no big deal. There's no, as long as you're open to spending 10 minutes to fill out an application and then spending some time over the phone to really talk through what you want to accomplish, and then a follow-up call to review what I've put together based on my review of your information and understanding of your goals. Then it just sits there. Like, if you don't want to buy for 6 months or a year, no big deal, but at least we have this pre-work done.
Right.
And you're not missing out on something. Oh yeah, I wish I'd have known that 4 months ago. I could have gone and planned and worked on it. Now you lost that time if you kind of pushed everything off till right before you have to do something.
Right. Yeah. I guess so. Here's a big one too: is what is it about Proper Rate that is different from other mortgage companies?
That's a great question. I think our focus, we're a very small company. I mean, our parent company, Guarantee Rate, is gigantic, one of the top lenders in the country. But we're a small boutique company. We're 25 loan officers-ish, have our own operations. So we have this real small kind of white glove focus on customer service, but the support and the products and everything of a giant company behind us. So I think the main difference that we and I offer is just this real hands-on experience, right? We're not just, you're not calling into a call center and, here's 4 lending scenarios for you to look at, 4 pieces of paper, you go figure them out and decide what you think each of them means. Or here's your pre-approved up to X, or we've looked at, one pay stub, but, we didn't really take the time to understand the uniqueness of your income. Do you have a lot of overtime? Do you have a raise coming? Did you just get out of a apprenticeship program at the union where your hourly rate's going to go up a lot in the next month? Has anyone really dug into your unique situation to make sure they're giving you the right information? That's the difference, is that you really get this very full, transparent, thorough process up front. And again, the idea is that we don't want surprises down the road. You don't like them, we don't like them.
Right.
Can things still pop up? Absolutely. But if we can avoid 90% of them by doing our homework up front, that's the difference.
Okay, that's awesome. Are you willing to speak on, so I know we were talking about expectations before. A lot of people, especially when they're selling a home, they go, I guess they rely on the so-called Zestimates. I guess, what kind of insight could you provide about, at least expectations on a Zestimate versus what is reality?
Got to talk to you guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. A seller, if you're considering selling, have an agent come over.
Okay.
Right. There's zero downside. It doesn't cost them anything. But now you're going to give them all the, yes, you have your Zestimate, but here's the reality. Here are the comparable properties that are like yours that have sold in the last 3-6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what you could expect if you did sell. So take the guessing out of it and have an agent come over, and the one that sold you your house, or anyone else that you might want to talk to, but have an agent come over to give you real information.
Okay. And then I guess the question I'm sure that everyone's going to want to get answered is, what are you seeing for 2025 in the market there, and I guess into the foreseeable future?
Are you referring to like interest rate wise, or just activity?
Yeah, I'm sure the interest rates are on a lot of people's minds.
They're on everyone's mind. Well, interest rates are they're proven to be very stubborn. I think we all would have thought we'd have seen a decrease by now, but we haven't.
Okay.
Why? Well, inflation hasn't gotten under control to the point where the Fed wants it to be. We have a jobs report like the one that came out today, which is came in way above expectations. What does that mean? It means that it's less likely that the Fed is going to be cutting their Fed funds rate as often or as quickly in 2025 as the market may have anticipated going into 2025. The Fed doesn't directly control long-term interest rates. That when the Fed drops a quarter, it doesn't mean the 30-year went down a quarter. It just means the Fed funds rate, which controls your credit card rates, et cetera, went down a quarter.
Okay.
But mortgage rates look at what the Fed's going to do and react to them. We're an actively traded bond instrument. So today, for example, when the jobs report came out, that was way above expectations. Because we think the Fed's less likely to cut rates as quickly or as often, long-term rates took a beating today. Okay. So mortgage rates went up today compared to yesterday. So I think we're going to continue to be in this what they call higher for longer interest rate market in 25, longer than we thought.
Okay.
That being said, I think most buyers know where rates are. Right? They're not. No one's surprised when you give them a rate in the high 6s or low 7s anymore. It's just that ship has sailed where they're not expecting to hear, what do you mean I'm not in the 5s? Or what do you mean this? So people are comfortable. Again, it all goes back to payment. Can we use where we are today with where you want to buy in a price point and get to a payment you want to have? That's really what it still boils down to. Is it as easy as it used to be because rates are higher? No, but that's where it all starts. So I think we'll kind of be in this higher for longer rate environment. Most estimators are kind of saying maybe low 6s at some point during 2025. That being said, activity is busy. We're only January 10th, and people pre-approval activity is strong already. That didn't really stop even during the holidays. Where people were still looking to get pre-approved. So I think the market is going to be active. We're still going to have this inventory issue where, again, because people are sitting on low interest rates, they're not as likely to sell their home. So supply is low, but we have high demand. So we're still going to have a competitive market for buyers, where they might want to go out there and buy a place, but it's still going to be actively competed against with other first-time buyers in most cases. So a busy market, higher rate environment, lasting longer. That's my forecast for 25.
Okay. I guess, could you go into a few programs that people aren't exactly aware of, or something that you might deem important that people need to know about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, again, I think this is still going to be a heavy first-time buyer market. And so there's a couple grant programs we have access to that not a lot of other lenders do. One's based on where the client's buying. So if they're doing conventional financing, they could potentially get up to $3,000 in grant money, as well as some reduced interest rates for being a first-time buyer. Most properties in Lake Porter qualify for sure. LaPorte can get a little bit sketchy, just depending on what part you're buying in, but it's not, all we need is the address to check, and we can tell right away if they're going to qualify. The other one's tied to where the client currently lives. Okay. So let's say someone lives in Maryville, for example. It doesn't matter where they're moving to, but based on where they live, that address could qualify them for a minimum of $5,000 up to $8,000 in grant money. So those are two things that, again, all we need is someone's either current address or where they're looking to potentially buy, and we can tell them in minutes if they would qualify for that. And then we would have to, obviously make sure we can still get conventional financing, but that would be there. And I would say the other thing that we're seeing a lot of is tied to VA financing.
Okay.
So as like a thank you for veterans, we waive our $1,640 lender fee in all VA loans. And then we have super aggressive pricing on top of that. So I think we've got a really strong VA product. And I've been seeing a lot more of that kind of gain some steam over the last couple months. I think that'll continue into 25 as well.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear, especially like I mentioned to you before, like I was in the military for quite a long time. And I know a lot of my, brothers and sisters in arms that definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service. And we're always happy to, even if someone's been pre-approved, that they want a second opinion or something, just always feel free to reach out and just ask. There's no harm in at least making sure you're not missing out on something.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks again, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Your time.
You got it.
Thank you all for tuning into the latest episode of Behind the Sale. I am your host and go-to agent here in Michigan City, Indiana, Eric Tornes. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay updated with the most current market information, including invaluable insights to help you navigate the home buying and selling process. And of course, if you or anyone you know is interested in listing their home and looking to purchase a home here in Northwest Indiana, please reach out to me at the number listed. It's never too early to start researching your next dream home. Until next time.